Hi, everyone. I'm Bobby Wilson. I'm the city councilman for here in District 1. And, today we're here for a Chestnut Street conversation, essentially. We do have some slides to show. Domi is going to present some slides. But at the end of the day, the slides are pretty limited, so there's not that many to go over. And most of it will be probably a good Q&A, so we can basically work through a lot of different questions, because that's exactly what I had whenever I saw the initial proposal. But I can say that, living on Spring Hill, growing up in Spring Hill, I've traveled Chestnut Street just, as much as anyone else. And, I'm looking forward to a good solution to what's out there, because what's out there right now isn't acceptable. I think it's really bringing down the neighborhood in a lot of ways. I think it doesn't really showcase this neighborhood the way it should. We're going to make a lot of different investments around this street in the future. And I think this can only promote the neighborhood even more. And really it's for the people who live here as well, for what you all live through every day, traveling back and forth, whether you're walking, biking, or driving a car. And, maybe one day the state will come in here and put a ramp that takes people right on to 28 or right on to 279, so they don't have to use this street. So that's another meeting in the future, hopefully. But until we get there, we have to make our street better. And I'm really, proud and honored to work with the current administration that worked with me to bring this forward to the community to make this investment in the street. All right, so no one has to clap for me. But I'll introduce Rebecca Rinaldo. She's your title is manager of the neighborhood services team. So it's been a pleasure working with Rebecca. And I also want to thank the current location the official name is City View? Tripoli Street Community Center. And really appreciate the space. I want to thank Leanne Younger for opening the doors to us. This has become a hub in many different ways for all of us. We've been here several times. I've seen several similar faces here multiple times. So good seeing everyone here today, and thanks, Leanne.
Thank you, Councilman. First off, in case it seems really silly that we're using a mic when we're in such an intimate space, it's because the city's city channel team is here live streaming the meeting so that folks who weren't able to come in person can hear us. And even if you think you have a boisterous voice, we've learned from the past that the folks at home can't hear on the live stream if we don't use the microphone. So when we go to Q&A, we'll ask that everyone ask their question into the microphone as well, so that the folks at home are caught up on what's going on. And has anyone tested the Facebook stream to make sure it's actually, thank you, Emily. So my name is Rebecca Rinaldo. I manage the Mayor's Neighborhood Services team. We are the team that handles constituent relations and outreach, as well as the 311 response line for the City of Pittsburgh. Just out of curiosity, how many of you found out about this meeting from a flyer left at your house? Anyone? Oh, good. A bunch of you. Great. That means our neighbor. You didn't get one on Chestnut Street? All right, well, take that back to the team tomorrow to talk about in staff meeting. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Councilman Wilson, there you are, for convening us, and to Leanne and the Tripoli Street Community Center for hosting us. I want to introduce the other folks in the room quickly. Michael Panzita is one of our engineers from the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. He's managing this project. Emily Bourne is from the Mayor's Communications team. Julianne Haluska, yes, I said it right, is Councilman Wilson's Community Relations Manager. And we've got Heather and Avocet in the back running the tech so that the folks at home can be engaged as well. Come on in, folks. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we get into what you actually want to talk about tonight. We just ask that you save your questions and comments for the end of the presentation. We'll go around the room one by one. And in case we end up in a situation where there are multiple viewpoints and perhaps some disagreement, we ask that we keep things respectful because we're all here because we love our community and we all want to see our community thrive. Leanne, restrooms are out the door and to the immediate right here. I want to thank our interpreter for being here to help us sign the meeting for those who speak sign language. And did I forget anything? Could I just get like 1 or 2 claps to have you all signify your agreement of the terms for our engagement tonight? All right. Did I forget anything? Okay. Oh, I know what I forgot. I was late because of a childcare challenge at the last minute. I was supposed to register all of you when you got here so that we can take down your contact info to make sure we let you know about future meetings like this, about things happening in your neighborhood. So if you would be so kind as to stop by and chat with me at that computer on your way out so I can register you at the end. I know that's a little backwards. We would appreciate it. With that, I'm going to bring Mike up to get to the good stuff. Oh, all right. I'm going to... City channel, is it okay if I turn this one off for now?
Okay. All right. Yeah, thanks again for everyone for coming. I'm also a North Sider, but I live on the other side, other council district, so in Manchester. So I'm pretty familiar with the street, lived here for almost 10 years. Want to just run through, like the councilman said, it's a pretty quick presentation. I think most people are aware of the condition of the street. I kind of want to talk about, what we've been looking into in terms of possible remediation and what, our recommendation on an initial analysis was for, remediation of the deteriorated street. So as we all know, Chestnut Street here is pretty rutted. A lot of the bricks are falling apart, breaking in half, or even just disintegrating in place. The rutting, indicates to us that the concrete base under the bricks is failing in a pretty severe way. There's a lot of drainage issues through there. I think everyone knows that the trolley tracks there are, not necessarily always set flush to the brick. They're kind of deteriorating, smushed down and kind of sharp edges. I ride my bike mostly. I find it really hard to make turns off of Chestnut. And I drive on it occasionally as well. I think it's a bit of a hazard. And then also, the sidewalk and curb are in various states of deterioration. Emily, you want to get... here's just some slides again showing, some of the bricks are in better or worse condition than others. The ones on the right are completely crumbling. You can see some old, likely utility patches that were just done with concrete and asphalt. So there's an inconsistent top layer to the street. On the left, you can see some of the hazardous buckling of the old trolley tracks that are in there and the kind of state of deterioration of the top there. Again, some more areas where the brick has just been patched over by asphalt. I would anticipate that those were areas where the base failed and there was some kind of like a sinkhole and it was just filled in with asphalt over the years. Center pick, another one of the trolley tracks that we got out there, just a real several inch jump between some sunken in bricks in the tracks. And again, there's a lot of various there's a lot of drainage issues there. Some ponding. You may notice when you go down the street that there's just kind of an obscene amount of inlets in there that we want to look at and kind of see why they're in place there when we look through the project. And just to kind of give an idea of what is under there, this is, we found this in our vault. This was from the last time they redid this street. This is actually the plans for the reconstruction of Chestnut Street last time. You can see that there's a brick top, a small layer of leveling, and then a 9-inch concrete base labeled in the bottom left-hand corner. And the steel, the rails themselves as well as the steel ties that the rails lie on, are actually integral to the concrete. They're poured into the concrete base. So the combination of the deteriorating base with likely the deterioration of that steel, I think, is giving a lot of issues. When we started to look at the project, we started talking to both like our old construction manager, as well as the contractors that we work with for a lot of our brick and blockstone street projects. And the what we heard was kind of the infeasibility, because of how integral these trolley tracks are to the street, to just repair around them and put new bricks on the old street. We anticipate, obviously until you start digging it up, you can't tell the extent of the base repair, but based on the condition of the road, it looks to be pretty bad under there. And the concept of somehow extricating the steel of the rail ties and the rails themselves without them also warping through rusting and other deterioration just seemed pretty infeasible, and likely why the maintenance has been deferred for so long. If you go, Emily. So let me go into kind of what we're looking to do. This is the project extents on the left, where the brick starts on right around Phineas Street, all the way to Spring Garden. We actually want to go a little bit farther than where the bricks stop now, kind of closer to where the coffee shop is, to extend the brick a little bit and have a more complete corridor at the end of the day. We're looking at doing, I guess you can go to the next slide. So we want to do a complete reconstruction of the brick roadway surface, dig it all down, put in a gravel sub base, a concrete base, and then put the brick on top, and kind of essentially get rid of what was there, and rebuild it in brick pavers, not a stamped concrete. We're looking at doing proper brick pavers, kind of like the bottom left picture. That was a project we did a year or two ago in the East End on Rhyolite Way, it's called, where we did some combination. I think of that one was reclaimed brick from the old way and new. The condition of the bricks here, I'm anticipating we'll do all new, but we'll look at that kind of as we bid out the project. And because we wanted to go out there and make the complete, this isn't like a full like streetscape project per se, but we wanted the final product to look really nice from building face to building face. So we wanted to incorporate the sidewalk and curb as well. We figure if we're digging out the roadway, we might as well put in new curb and sidewalk. The upper right is just a standard concrete sidewalk and curb. That's a project I did a couple years ago in Arlington. So that's kind of the, just to get an idea of like what it's going to look like and in final conditions, at least as we anticipate. Phasing. So we do want to get started on work this year. We were looking at taking a piece of our overall concrete, brick, and blockstone maintenance budget, a pretty decent chunk of it, to get started on the project this year. And we're going to work with the council office to try and get dedicated funding next year to do the rest of it. Based on our estimates, we think we can do about a third of it this year with the funding that we plan to set aside. And then depending on if we can get the full funds for the rest of it, we would do the rest in 2024. Otherwise, I'd like to just take a chunk each year to do it in thirds. Naturally, I'll look at the extensive work when we get bids back and kind of know the dollar amount. The estimates are based on some of our more localized maintenance of brick and blockstone, which gets a higher unit price. So I'm hoping that we'll get bids back a little lower because of the bigger project. But so this can change a little bit, but this is kind of my initial estimate of like what we were going to do for scoping it out. And I think that's it.
right, Councilman, do you want to come back up and just help moderate Q&A? Remember, everyone's got to use the mic.
Okay. All right, so we're just going to start with the questions. And then every person gets the mic?
Well, either that or just repeat the question back.
Okay, I can repeat the question.
Okay. Well, it's not really a question, it's a comment. So I live on Chestnut, and I know over the years a lot of people have been talking about the trolley tracks, whether they should stay or go. Overall, I'm really in support of the project. I walk Chestnut with my 3-year-old in a stroller. We have a push-behind bike at this point, and the curb ramps are terrible. It's like impossible to walk up and down the street. So anything that replaces the sidewalk and gives us some really good curb ramps.
Yeah, my understanding, I'm not dummy, but I'm pretty sure all curb ramps will be fixed, and then even further we would go and we would coordinate with PWSA. You can see that one catch basin there's a slide there where it shows the catch basin where it is the current code or standard that we do. The hope of we would coordinate so that they all were like that. So we would go even further. We would coordinate with utilities and everything to make sure that it's all done properly. Actually, that one right there was fixed because I was driving, and it was like I was driving past it, and I was, living in the city, an urban city, you just kind of keep driving past things that are wrong and should be fixed. And it was just that was that one that was depressed all the way, and I was just contacted PWSA, and I was like, this needs to be fixed.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's been piecemeal together.
yeah, so.
Nice to get a fresh start.
Yeah, there was that big ponding that was happening where I think I counted 8 different catch basins in one area. And there's actually some sensors that were going off on the fire trucks because of the ponding. Like as though the fire truck was in like a flood or something. There was some sort of sensor on the truck. And so I had PWSA come out, and they like flushed all that. So the water's just a couple inches lower than it was previously. But yeah, all that will be coordinated.
Well, and the splashing too, if you're walking on the street.
Yeah.
You have to like duck cars, splash on the street.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the main things I was excited to see was that both sidewalks would be completely redone.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really see, if you were tearing up that much of the street, like, why not just include the sidewalk? It'll end up being a little more expensive, but.
Oh.
Yeah, so if we're tearing up the sidewalks, streets and everything else, and we're putting in all new sidewalks in the next year or two, there's still a lot of vacant lots there and houses that need to be redeveloped and stuff like that. And if there needs to be utility hookups and stuff, are we just gonna re-tear up the sidewalks and some of the streets? Like that seems like it's kind of backwards. So how are we gonna like address that? Because if you have like an individual doing their own, work on their house, and then they have to bust up a sidewalk, the repairs that they make themselves might not be the same. So you're gonna have this like fragmented sidewalk that doesn't look unison down the whole street.
So people that are listening, I just want to repeat back the question. The question is, what would happen with all these different properties that are on this street if they need to have, let's say, a water hookup or a gas hookup or any sort of lead line repair? I imagine that's what you're talking about. Any sort of repair in the future, especially how we see all these streets that are being, torn up because of the lead line repairs, and then we come back and, make a nice paving job at the end of it. Do you have an answer for that?
For the lead lines, we usually work with PWSA. We've gotten into a process of letting them know early so they can get out there, do the work, and we'll do the rest. Do the restoration as part of the project.
So we can commit to working with PWSA to literally flush out if any properties on there currently need it. I think the second part of your question was if someone then buys that property where there isn't currently a house. It's a great question because there is a large parcel on the corner. Not sure how that would be addressed.
I think it would be like any other parcel that was being redeveloped. If there was a specific plan now for a project to come in, like we could coordinate with those people, but I think they would just, they would pull out the bricks, replace the concrete base when they were done, reset the bricks and do the work like any other street.
And the good news about that is we no longer have to watch so the bricks aren't stolen. You know how like they would pile them up? Brick streets now that are have the new lead lines, they take them away and they store them until they have to come back and replace them. So good news on that part, that we don't have to keep an eye open on that one.
We got some feedback from the folks at home, so we're going to switch things up a bit. I'm going to take the mic around the room, and if you could stand with Mike up at this microphone, and I'll rove around. Who's next? Here we go.
So I have like 9 questions, but I'll just do 1 or 2 and then see if there's other people who want to ask some. But the first one, actually, Isaac, thanks for reminding me, but I'm renovating a property on Chestnut now, and it actually has pretty decent like herringbone brick sidewalk. So I'm wondering is it like a sort of, you're going to do all the sidewalks, no questions asked, or can you work with the property owner to kind of demarcate?
Yeah, we can work with you.
Okay, that's the first question. My other question was, what's the plan sort of for traffic, or is it not determined yet, but like the rerouting during the construction process? Is it like down to 1 lane, or is it everything kind of moving around it?
It's going to probably be a mess.
Okay. Well,
Traffic. Yeah, I'm anticipating it'll be a detour
okay.
During construction.
Okay.
But we don't have that. So yeah, we'll work
Okay.
that out with our traffic control people.
Because as a side note, I would love to study Chestnut being one way, and everyone's gonna hate me, but I'd love to as we're rerouting I would hope that you guys would sort of study what's going on and what people are doing when Chestnut.
I've already started talking
Okay.
to traffic people about it.
Okay, excellent.
What can we do about signage?
Yeah, okay.
It's not really not how the trucks should be going.
Okay. And before, so I could probably just do with these 3 for now, but the 16th Street Bridge sort of road diet project, is that still something you guys are going to do? Because it's sort of related to Chestnut, but do you know?
Yeah, I told Domi that I thought that was a good project.
Yeah, me too. I think that's great.
But there hasn't been any engagement on that. That was in last time I heard something about that was in 20.
I think 19, right?
2022.
Yeah.
I heard Domi was still talking about that. I can't remember if that was part of like a Bike Plus plan or something.
Yeah,
Might have been.
it's not my project, but I've heard about it too, but I've not been directly involved with that one.
Okay.
So we can look into it. Maybe talk to some council.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm glad you brought that up because we should revisit that. We have a standing meeting my office has a standing meeting with Domi every 2 weeks, so we'll Julianne's in the audience. We'll make sure that happens. Thanks.
Coming right back. Okay. Who were you pointing at? Oh. Was it you?
Thank you. Is this working? Thank you to Domi and to the city and to Councilman Wilson for taking the lead on this. This is obviously a big and important deal, and I appreciate the thoughtful questions that we've had so far. And I'll apologize in advance for speaking emotionally about the decision that apparently seems to have been made to rip up the tracks. The tracks are part of what makes the street distinct, and frankly, they're a memorial to one of the most wrong-headed decisions that the city of Pittsburgh made 2 generations ago to disinvest in transit. And I think it's problematic that we just go ahead and get rid of them without at least a conversation about what would be involved in either keeping or restoring the tracks, particularly as they make the street pleasant to walk along. I realize there are problems for biking, as you pointed out, but they make the street distinctive. They serve as good traffic moderation and so on. Did you do any pricing on an alternate concept that would keep the tracks?
We started talking to contractors about it, but each one of them was saying it's you really can't know unless you start really digging it up. And then in addition, looking at the plans of how, the tracks and the ties are essentially like rebar in the concrete at this point. once you start to remove them, we don't even know how you could put them back, considering their condition. Like, where do you stockpile them? They're not going to still be straight. It's not anything that 100 years ago when they put it in. I'm sure they put in new tracks because they were still manufacturing those for trolley lines. At this point, that, and again, I think that's why this project, everyone knows that this needs to be done, but it just keeps getting deferred because of the trolley track question. It just doesn't seem feasible now.
Thanks for the questions and definitely the concerns, because those are my concerns going back years ago. Whenever this conversation happened, and when I got in office, Chestnut was, always a street where, we reached out to Domi about, and the answer at the current time was, we can asphalt over it. And it was like, yeah, we're not doing that. And so then the first initial plan, that was presented was a plan that went and looked at, like Mike was talking about, to, essentially at each intersection, fix the brick. And then as they, looked into that more, and that they were, getting back to our office about that, there was some concern about, just like you said, once they start digging or try to make that repair, there would also be concern about contaminants. Can you walk us through that?
Oh, just any place that used to run transit lines on, you tend to see contaminated soil. So, that was one of the things we talked to about the contractor was, making sure that we can get rid of anything that might have contaminants. That we'll also have to investigate when we're doing the project. And we did look at kind of more of a patchwork repair. And again, the other thing that we do want at the end of the day is a product that looks good and lasts. And in every conversation we had with people who pour concrete and do brick repair day in and day out, they essentially threw up their hands and said, I don't know how we can build this and it not be deteriorating again in 10 years. You could tell that going out in the street how bad the base, definitely the condition is. So to get under those tracks, to remove it and re-pour the concrete, it would be like, removing the concrete from, removing the concrete part from the concrete and leaving the rebar in place and re-pouring around it. That might be a little too nerdy.
Mike, is there a way to visually represent or sort of symbol? Could you almost use like a...
Sorry. I was wondering if there's a way to almost use like concrete sort of line work or like a different colored brick or something where the tracks are. I know it's fake, but it would sort of do the sort of
memorial.
Yeah, like I don't know if you've seen that done before or.
I think the traffic people will be concerned about lane lines and confusion with the cars. But I agree that it was terrible that they tore up all the trolley lines. But if we want to, I'm happy to brainstorm something like that to kind of keep that spirit alive on the street.
I think the other option is we can preserve a section of it and move it off the street somewhere, like by Food City or somewhere, like a sidewalk or like a parcel of green space we can use as a walkway or something with the original tracks with some brick.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I know that there are some capital projects where there is art involved, so maybe there is a way to incorporate that into this. I can't remember the percentage. I think it's 1% of the project. We'll see if this aligns with that. Yeah, we'll see if this aligns with that, because it's not even actually per project anymore. I should revise that. What I just said is actually, because I was at the table when we legislated to change it, it's actually now a more equitable process where we look at, basically I think all the projects that would receive that funding, that now goes into this, probably a trust fund or some sort of pot of money where then the city planning looks at that to be spent in an equitable way. So maybe one project doesn't get it, but its other project gets it, gets a larger proportion than it would have at that 1%. Like it may be like then 10% of the project. But something I want to talk about, to go back to the original question of the effort that was put into seeing how we could preserve the tracks. And so that so whenever we talked with the contractor, I didn't talk to him, but whenever Domi engaged with the contractor that would redo the brick, lay the brick in each intersection in a better, and they would basically rehab those intersections. That cost, my understanding, was essentially the cost that it would be to fully redo what we're presenting here. And so it was also very cost prohibitive to essentially do that. Although, I was on the side of let's save the tracks, let's do this. How can we do it? Literally spent I feel like the past 3 years visiting this conversation for a couple of reasons. Because I knew the tracks were important, and I also knew that the street is just in total disrepair, and that if we spent the amount of money on each intersection to repair the brick, that it doesn't even guarantee us that it would be aligned with those tracks. So you still would have the track 2 inches above in some areas, and then we'd have to then there's still the issue of the base, and the base would still deteriorate, and we still would have to then fill in with that asphalt. We'd still be given the asphalt solution. Yeah. Yeah, can you make a note of that art consumption? I actually had an idea. If we're going to take the tracks out, then we just slice it all up and give a piece to everyone.
Yeah, this gentleman actually took the suggestion that I was going to make as well, is that there was a way to aesthetically try to replicate the tracks with, a graphite colored brick or something that would, pay homage. And so I think that would be a great compromise to look at. And I love the idea of preserving the track, auctioning it off, or giving us all a piece, something. My question is, you mentioned the lead line replacement. What other utilities are under that street and sidewalk that would potentially also be ready for an upgrade or an improvement at the same time? And specifically, has there ever been given any consideration to moving all of the overhead lines into the street at the same time as you're taking on a project like this?
We typically do utility coordination with any utilities that are on we do utility coordination with any utilities that are on a street we'll be working on. We can't necessarily compel them to upgrade their facilities, but we give them the opportunity when either in advance of or when the street's ripped up to do I guess their capital work. Sorry, what was the second part?
That was
the overhead line. Undergrounding the overhead lines. I can have that conversation. Again, I don't think we can tell them to do that necessarily for the PUC because they're regulated by the state. But I guess we can offer to, if we're going to be doing the sidewalk and curb, it's not that hard to add a conduit to it so that they can pull the wires through. So I can have that conversation for sure.
So the only existing utilities is water and sewer? Water and sewer is the only thing that's under there right now that we know of?
I don't remember offhand, but yeah, there's definitely gas lines down there.
Oh, all right. Come to this side of the room. We'll start with you and work our way down.
I've lived on Chestnut Street for over 20 years, and so you can imagine how happy I am for this. But I live in the section, like the middle section, that isn't going to be done until 24 at least, might be longer. And I have a request, because in front of me, right across from me, when trucks go by there, it sounds like they're falling apart. If they couldn't put a strip of asphalt in the meantime where it's really bad, yeah.
We just talk after, and you can like give me your address, and I'll just jot it down. And same with you with the pairing bug.
Is there any concern that when this is done, traffic speeds will increase? I know sight lines are not great coming out of some of those alleyways, and with a new street, I think people don't go terribly fast because it's in such terrible condition. But I think that would be a concern that with a nice new street, speeds will pick up, and it is an issue.
Potholes are great traffic calming. I think one of the reasons that we try to preserve our brick and blockstone streets is kind of the natural traffic calming effect that they have. When you have almost a hazard like the trolley, like the elevated trolley tracks, people I'm sure are going to drive slower. I have already started talking to our traffic calming, the people who run our traffic calming program, just to see both kind of what's going on, what they've studied so far in the neighborhood, and to talk about, rerouting the truck traffic. Not that we can force people to take it, but while this, it's anticipated it'll be a detour, to get trucks like used to taking East Ohio to Merchant if they're going on to, or Madison rather, to get to the highway. My understanding is that the reason they take Chestnut is that that's what GPS tells them to do. So I don't know how sticky GPS is if people are going to be taking. Yeah, so I'm working with people who do our traffic operations, because that definitely was a concern that came up as a part of this project. So we'll work on it.
All right. Was there someone else on this side of the room? Yes.
Two questions. Quicker one first. I know there's two different scenarios, but how long is it anticipated that the detour will be up and the road will be unusable while the replacement's going on?
I haven't looked at kind of construction anticipated, I guess, duration. I probably need to consult some of the people who know more about scheduling work.
Sure.
But I'll look into it and kind of get an idea from some of the contractors that we work with, and I'll get in touch with the council office and get a rough idea.
All right, and the other question was, assuming normal conditions, what's going to be the durability of the new road? Is it not going to need repair for several years out? How long is it expected to last in a decent condition?
The old one lasted about 100 years. I'm not going to, make a promise, but the old one was a 9-inch concrete base with the brick on top. The concrete was just on the subgrade, just on the dirt underneath. We would do it to a more modern standard that has gravel, almost like a drainage layer under that concrete to wick away water, which helps, with the durability of the concrete. We'd also be using, modern concrete mixes. So, but the design of the road is relatively similar in terms of a concrete base. I think I'm looking at a 10-inch base instead of a 9-inch, but it would also be the brick on top of, a pretty hefty concrete base. So, again, it lasted almost 100 years as is. And most of Grant Street was done in the 80s, I think, and yeah.
Are there any plans for the center line on Chestnut Street? I think there's currently a double yellow.
It's a painted double yellow. We would just paint it as is, I would anticipate.
Yeah, well, I know that studies show that removing the double yellow on two-way streets can actually reduce speeds. It poses some challenges for drivers, and it may actually help deter truck traffic if there isn't that clear delineation and larger semi-trucks kind of don't feel as comfortable navigating. So could consider not putting the double yellow back on.
Works for me.
Hello. I just have a comment. I live on Peralta. Super excited about this. Very excited you're going to do all of this. It looks awesome. I just wanted to give my support. Very, very pleased to see it's brick. I had no idea. I had no idea you would do that. It's just very exciting. It's going to look awesome. So I I feel like often there's a lot of like, oh no, but I'm like so happy.
I learned 2 days ago that there at the DPW stockpile, there's just these pallets of brick that were.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that are currently unclaimed, and so I think I'm going to put a MP on it for my project.
But it's great. Good job. Thank you.
So to kind of add to that, a lot of times I think my goal, as I spend my time in this current office, my time in office here, is to change the narrative that the East gets everything. So, for us to have a nice brick street, and to continually invest in our parks, and to, there's gonna be another meeting with, North Avenue, is to totally just rewrite, that for Northsiders, to say that, as you see, in the East End, there's an alleyway that has a brick street that we're talking about that would be our main street. So to completely, just rewrite that kind of, thing that Northsiders say is like a mantra, to completely change that is basically my number one goal.
And I think that's why when we talked to you guys about it, we brought up the stamped concrete, we brought up the brick. We wanted to do like a good faith effort of keeping it the historic look and kind of see what, what the, test the waters of what was possible, and just kind of have a good faith conversation about it. So it was really helpful to have you guys on board.
Yeah.
There was a hand over it, right?
Yeah, definitely just want to echo the thanks and the positivity. To start, I'll try to keep it to just a few questions. First, on the topic of traffic calming, I think there was a comment about people not going terribly fast now, but have a first row seat to that's not totally true. There is some extremely dangerous driving and extreme speeds already taking place. So I think, to the point about a double yellow line and what studies show about that, or just recognizing that, the effort around thinking through solving that problem is really relevant on that street, whether it has a bunch of potholes and rails or not. So that's first. On the topic of utilities, again, is there any mechanism by which, I'm thinking on the southwest corner of Tripoli, in that vicinity, I think, that intersection, there's currently some form of water leaking from underneath the street, underneath the sidewalk. I think there have been a number of 311s or otherwise submitted. But just, is there a mechanism for boots on the ground, people in the community to identify those things and not completely rely on just the utilities to be tracking what problems are going on and communicate that to you guys, prior to the start of the work?
Yeah, so you're saying it's almost like a water line that might be leaking into the roadway, or more of roadway drainage that's not getting picked up?
No, it's something like a line bubbling up from the surface, yeah.
Sorry?
So there's a water leak somewhere right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's just get the address. We can fix it right now, or at least hold that property owner accountable.
But that's great.
Yeah.
Further to that point, maybe leading up to this project, is there a map or something where, even if I know a property is going to be under development, and I can essentially identify, hey, let's make sure we're thinking about getting this water line done as we're leading up to this project, during the project. So again, we're not immediately after construction. I think, to a point back here earlier, tearing up the sidewalk a bunch again because there's advantageous properties there to be developing very shortly after this work.
I think the more information I have from you guys about what's going on the street, the better the project's going to be. So if projects that are coming up on the private property side, reach out. I mean, we could have a conversation after this. I can give you my card, like, or you can
Yeah.
reach out to neighborhood services or the council office. You know, the more I know, the easier it'll be. Typically, you know, we'll have inspectors on site who can work with people to make fixes, you know, during construction. But the more we know about that beforehand, the easier it's going to be.
Okay, great. So I guess the mechanism is just get in touch with you. You're effectively the database to map all these potential things.
I mean, and in terms of like the, you know, issues with water lines, you can also, 311 is, you know, just a standard notification tool.
Mm-hmm. And then two more just quick ones, I think. Is there, so for like future repair to the street, a lot of time, effort, cost is spent to reconstruct this beautiful street. As far as the work that needs to be done in the future on the street, is there like protocol that ensures someone's not just putting like asphalt back in places and making a patchwork out of it again?
That's something that we've been working on as our department has been staffing up, is to get more inspections and, you know, actually having the capacity of our staff to go out and make sure that, you know, when utilities and other people are tearing up the road, when it's a brick or blockstone street, that they're properly, you know, stockpiling the brick and putting it back, or, you know, putting in new brick if it breaks or whatever. And we do have standards, you know, brick streets are required by those people, by the permittee. They're responsible for restoring the roadway surface to equal or better to what it was before. And that is our, you know, our department's permitting group is the one who takes care of that. And, you know, every year at the department retreat, we learn how many more permits they've done and how many more inspections they've been able to handle as we kind of build out that capacity. So that is something that we see throughout the city, and we're trying to get some of those bad actors kind of back into compliance in terms of restoring the roadways properly.
Mm-hmm. And last thing, as you guys are cataloging like some of the brainstorming going on here, is there like another milestone in this process that is kind of the messaging back with, hey, we had a conversation about this. This was the result of that conversation, at least so it's kind of a feedback loop to the group here about someone asked about something, someone's having a conversation about it. Is there a milestone at some point that's messaging back what the result of that was?
Yeah, so at this point, we want to work through all the concerns and questions and then get back to everyone. And I think that's one of the major reasons why Rebecca was talking about at the end, so we can get your information. But there also is an Engage page set up. And so there's going to be updates on that page as well. But it should just be, you know, stated that there isn't a time point set. There's not like a date set. Like this project hasn't, you know, moved from this stage to, you know, like there's not a contractor that, I'm not aware of a contractor that's hired.
No, I have draft documents.
Yeah, this is a concept, and this has been kind of showcasing, although there's a few slides, showcasing the work and the conversation that's been happening downtown, and also just based off of a lot of the feedback we've gotten from you all. And so the main reason why we're here is to bring it to the public. We're on live TV. We're in this community setting, and so we want to work through all these questions and concerns. So nothing's even set yet. So that's why we can't answer questions about you know, detours as thoroughly as we should, and then also like time points on like how long this is going to take in terms of like each phase. Right?
Yeah. But like, I mean, definitely, you know, before construction, like I want to make sure that you guys are all aware of what the traffic control, what the detours are going to look like. Like that would definitely be another big push out. But I'll work with you guys to kind of document, and we can.
So I'm going to jump in with a housekeeping item for the folks at home. We see that one of you at home has your hand raised, but our current live stream setup does not allow for us to get you at home to be able to ask a question to us interactively. We apologize. I also want to apologize. It was just brought to our attention that the slides that we're sharing here in the room are not projecting out to the folks at home, which we didn't realize. They will be posted on the Projects Engaged page sometime tomorrow, maybe, Mike? Does that work for you? Okay. Do we have that link in the, well, I can get you guys that link tonight. If you got the flyer at your house, there's a link to it. If you were to just Google Engage Pittsburgh Chestnut Street, it'll be the first result for you. But I'm happy to get that link to anyone after the meeting tonight as well. And then the other thing I wanted to mention.
It's on the flyer, but.
Yeah. To the folks at home, there is a mechanism on the Engage page for this project where you can submit a question. If you share your contact info when you submit that question, we'll make sure to get back to you. And then regarding just the feedback loop and follow-up, is this group represented by CASGED or by East Allegheny Community Council? Councilman? CASGED. So we do try to kind of feed updates through the corresponding community group that both the mayor's office, neighborhood services team, and the councilman staff attend on a consistent basis. So please route questions, follow-up questions or concerns about this through your community group, and we can kind of maintain a conversation about this through that platform as well. And then I did want to acknowledge 2 questions we received online in advance of the meeting. One is not about this project, but I want to just acknowledge that we got it. Councilman, someone is requesting more city trash cans on AAA Street. So we can talk to DPW about that. And then kind of similar to one of the concerns already expressed tonight, someone submitted a question about a maintenance plan for the brick. So I don't know if you want to speak to that or if you kind of already did or.
Typically, the maintenance is monitoring the brick and making sure it stays in good condition. We do have we keep a contractor on call to do concrete, brick and block, stone streets, rehab. We do those all throughout the city. Most of the projects, and we have a budget for that purpose. Most of the projects we do throughout the city for concrete, brick and block, stones are small areas that have issues. So they'll pull up the brick, see what's going on underneath, and usually do some kind of base repair and fix it. So that's pretty standard for what we do for maintenance of brick streets.
I'm gonna come back here.
So the maintenance and the deterioration of the brick sounds like it's a big concern. And the other thing was like with heavy traffic, like large trucks and stuff like that. And obviously the detours will be temporary to get them to go another direction, or the GPS starts taking them back through Chestnut. Can we put a weight limit on the street to not allow them to come down the street any longer, to make them reroute automatically?
I am not super familiar on how postings work for streets. My understanding is that it is for like a technical reason that it physically can't hold that weight, and I don't think we're able to post streets for some form of like traffic control. Sorry, did you have 2 questions? Yeah, okay.
Anyone else?
Is there going to be any lighting?
Will there be any new lighting as part of this project?
I haven't looked at it. Lighting is pretty expensive for new, if we do like pedestrian poles like we've done in some neighborhoods, those are something like $10,000 each. But an overhead light, we're working on the LED street light rehab, or replacing all of the old halide street light luminaires with new LEDs. That's supposed to be coming online in the next couple of years. we can look. Are there any particular lights that are broken or anything like that? Or, okay.
So maintenance of existing lights we could look at now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another.
Mike could tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe we can commit to looking at the lighting and just to make an analysis on which ones are dim, which ones should be turned up to the appropriate level, because right now there's probably the sodium ones.
I would anticipate. I don't.
Yeah, so some of those can be turned up, but if there are poles, we'll look as well. I think we can commit to this, that and we've done this in Spring Hill going up Eaton Street, that there were basically just utility poles that didn't have a light on it. So we're able to add lights to those utility poles. So if that's the case on Chestnut, then it should be an easy fix. But the long-term solution isn't that. The long-term solution is to, fully, put all new lights everywhere in the city, and to follow through with the LED street light plan.
Anyone else? All right. Well, before Councilman, I'm going to have you close us out, but I want to just remind everyone, if you can stop by for us to register you on your way out, that would be great. And I want to uplift 2 opportunities for young people that we have flyers about at the table over here. One is the city's Summer Learn and Earn program, which is for kids ages 14 to 21 to get a paid career experience throughout the summer. So it keeps our kids busy doing something productive, keeps them out of trouble while also building their resume and getting them some income. So please, if you have a young person in your home or on your block, please grab some flyers and help us promote that opportunity. And then I shouldn't say that the lifeguard opportunity is only for young people. It's just that that's who the opportunity tends to attract. But we are actively recruiting lifeguards right now. I say it all the time, but I'll say it again. The number of lifeguards we're able to recruit is directly related to the number of pools we are able to open. And in Pittsburgh, we love our pools.
What's the hourly rate?
It's ranging now. It's a pretty decent wage. They've gotten it raised. It's ranging between $16 and $19 an hour to be a lifeguard. So I think it's a really great opportunity. You don't have to have previous lifeguarding experience. They'll get you trained and certified. If you have a transportation barrier to getting to the pool where they do the certification, they'll get you bus passes. Like, the city is really trying to eliminate as many barriers as we can to help get folks into these jobs so we can open our pools. And I know the councilman always has an interesting puzzle to navigate with the 3 pools in the north side and which ones get opened. So with that, I'm going to ask the councilman to close us out. And thanks again to the AAA Community Center for hosting us. And thank you all. You were a very lovely crowd tonight.
Mike, you want to say anything? All right, we're switching mics here. I just want to say thanks to everyone that came here in person, everyone that's watching, everyone that gave feedback previous to coming to the meeting. And this will all be available in the future for people to watch this meeting. And then also, just remember, there's several ways to reach out. There's the Engage page. We do have a flyer that's here, so you can see all the information that is on the flyer if you haven't seen it yet, for anyone that wants that website for the Engage page here. But just know that between the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, you can reach out to Mike. You can reach out to the Neighborhood Services team, and you can reach out to my office as well. Best way to contact us is just at district1@pittsburghpa.gov. And I'd like to thank Mike.
I was just going to say, for the Engage page, right now, the input form is just specifically for this meeting, but I can adjust it to be a general project question input. So I'll change that when I just fill it as well.
Okay. Just there's a lot of ways to reach out on that website.
Yeah.
It further just, it's like a, one place to go to see where you should go next also. So I just want to thank Mike, for walking us through this, working on this project. Thank Rebecca for, all this engagement and everything that your office does. And then, just want to thank everyone that works hard in my office to make sure that we're communicating with the community. And I want to thank Cascade for all the work they do in the community to make sure everyone's connected and everything runs smoothly. With that, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their night.